soils. Soils have every single element at some amount, and it might just be a couple of atoms, but they're still there. So what's important to keep in mind when discussing these, pretty powerful topics like arsenic and cadmium, things that sound scary, is that, well, all soils have them. The real question is, are they at such a concentration that they might pose a risk, either to plants or to humans? So to answer that question, we have to consider different kinds of metals for their distinct effects on humans. We're going to be focusing on lead for two reasons. One is that lead is most studied, and second, lead is the most common heavy metal contaminant in residential soils, so backyards, gardens. If you're finding yourself gardening or farming near a former industrial center, then lead might not be as common as other compounds like, say, cadmium or arsenic. But let's talk about lead. So lead, I think, is exemplary of heavy metals in that it poses a suite of harmful effects to the human body, again, at a sufficiently high concentration. So in the case of lead, there's things like behavioral changes like increased aggression, there's nausea, and there's also long-term effects, especially on children who are still developing. And I think most notably is that it stunts not just physical growth, but also mental growth. So there's cause to be concerned about heavy metals because they can impact human health. Some metals are different in how they do that. So for example, cadmium tends to affect the kidney, like lead, but also sex organs, and as a result, it can lead to birth defects. In the case of arsenic, that is also a carcinogen, so there's a distinct threat posed by that metal. Now, we're talking about soils, and the whole focus here is that soils are a common repository, shall we say, for all kinds of contaminants, and that includes things like heavy metals. And so when we think about the use of soils for recreation, things like playgrounds, for your kids or for your dogs, but also for food production, for gardens, there's two main ways of thinking about risk. The first is an indirect exposure route, and that would be you're exposed to heavy metals via the food that you grow in it. And so in this example, by consumption of the carrot, which accumulated lead from the soil into its flesh, and then you consume it.